Hello everyone, I just feel like I need to make this video in order to truly get off my chest of how frustrating and how agonizing this situation has been for the better part of 3 or 4 years now. Now, when the Philadelphia Eagles won the Super Bowl in February of 2018, amazing moment, absolutely incredible moment. It's a moment that the city had been waiting for so long. Not just the Eagles, but it had been 9 years since the Phillies won the World Series as well. Like nine and a few months since the Phillies won the World Series. So it had been some time. And before the Phillies won the World Series, it was 25 years since Philadelphia had won a championship. After that year, after the Eagles won the Super Bowl, it seems like we've had nothing but pain in this city. And granted, Philadelphia sports, you grow up, it's indoctrinated you. You will feel pain. It's just part of the lifestyle, but it seems like it's been extreme ever since the Eagles won the Super Bowl. So let me take you through everything that's happened. 2018 Flyers, they lose in the first round to the Pittsburgh Penguins, their biggest rival, in 6 games, which wasn't like excruciating. But because the Penguins, I think every Flyers fan would just admit that they were the better team in that series anyway. But I digress. Next, the Sixers in 2018. First year that they're good in a long time. They lose in the second round to the Celtics, and everyone's going to say, "Oh, it's that was just it's a growing team." That's the year that Kyrie Irving and Gordon Hayward were out, and they were basically relying on a bunch of first and second year players in order to get in the playoffs. That's the series. That's the year where that was Jason Tatum's rookie year, and Brett Brown completely blew that series, and that was painful because the Celtics and the Sixers and Celtics were huge rivals. Next, it was 2018. The Phillies had been bad for so long. 2018, they actually seemed like they had something. It seems like their years of losing had finally led to something. They were doing really well for the majority of the year until August came around, and then they just collapsed. Which sucked. But at the same time, it's like, hey, we actually have hope now. This Phillies team might actually be doing something. Maybe they're not just an afterthought, complete losers. Then the follow-up the Eagles season, their chance to defend their title. They had a really frustrating season, but Nick Foles came back in the last, I believe, 3 or 4 weeks of the season, beat the Texans, and beat the Redskins. They're the football team now, but they were the Redskins at the time, in the final week of the season to make the playoffs. They even upset the Bears in the double doink game. Then they lost to the Saints, mostly due to Alshon Jeffrey's drop pass. And they were driving down to win the game when that happened, which, yeah, was obviously painful. But considering the fact that they had won the Super Bowl the year before, and it seemed like the team was just on an upward trajectory at that point, it didn't really hurt them much at the time, considering the fact that the Saints were the 1 seed and they were favored to win anyway. So there's that. 2019, the Flyers they made the playoffs the previous year. Can't make the playoffs 2 years in a row, so they didn't make the playoffs in 2019. But there was one bright spot. A kid named Carter Hart came up that year and showed some promise in his rookie year. And that got everyone really excited. 2019 Sixers went all in. Kawhi Leonard. Don't really need to explain more than that. 2019 Phillies. They signed and traded for so much talent. They signed Bryce Harper to a 13-year, $330 million contract. They traded for all-star catcher JT Realmuto. They signed a big name who was on the decline but still is a name, Andrew McCutchen. And they seem, a lot of people say, oh, they're going to go to the World Series, they're going to win. And even I was like, just hope for playoffs, and that's it. I'm not saying, oh, they're going to win the World Series or anything. Just hope for playoffs. They started off really well. They looked like world beaters in the first 2 or 3 months of the year. And then the year before, they collapsed and finished below 500. And not only that, but our division rival, the guy that we signed Bryce Harper off of, the Washington Nationals, had one of the most improbable and amazing World Series runs that the MLB has ever seen. So that's an insult to injury right there. Next, the 2019 Eagles, a season that was just completely frustrating again. It seemed like everyone on the team got hurt that year. Hell, Greg Ward was the best wide receiver at the end of the year. Carson Wentz, I mean, he galvanized the troops as best as he could, led the team to the playoffs with a 9-7 record, which was awful, but it was good enough to win the NFC East, which would be even worse the next year. His first or second series, I forget what it was, against the Seahawks in the playoffs, he gets knocked out by Clowney. No hope to win the game after that. And in retrospect, that pretty much was the end of Carson Wentz in Philly at the time. Because, yeah, like, no one really could have really foreseen how bad he would have been in 2020. And I'll get to that. But that hit was essentially the end of the road for him in Philadelphia. Okay, next. 2020 Flyers. Actually a really good season for them. It was the first time they made the second round of the playoffs in 8 years, since beating the Penguins in 2012. And even though they lost in 7 to the Islanders, they did battle back. They were down 3-1 in the series. They battled back to force a Game 7, and they got completely destroyed in the Game 7. But still, while that was heartbreaking, and I wanted them to make the third round of the playoffs, obviously, that wasn't really a big gut punch, considering the fact that they hadn't been there in so long, and as it's been proven, the Islanders are actually a great playoff team. That it wasn't some like upset. Oh, the Flyers were the 1 seed. You can't lose to the Islanders. Like, that team hadn't made the third round since 1993. What a choke by the Flyers. Well, as it turns out, the Islanders were in fact the better team, and they're proving it not only that year, but this year as well. The 2020 Sixers, awful, frustrating season. I don't care what they finished. They made the playoffs. They got swept in the first round by the Celtics. Completely horrible year. The Al Horford contract. Make everyone's hair tear out. 2020 Phillies had one of the best offenses in the league. Top 5 in runs scored. Had a pretty damn solid starting rotation as well. Top 10 in starting pitching ERA. The bullpen single-handedly cost them a spot in the playoffs. The Marlins got in the playoffs that year. In fact, in the last 7 games of the season, all the Phillies had to do to make the playoffs was go 2-5. That's all they had to do. In the last 7 games of the season, as it turned out, all they would have to do to make the playoffs was go 2-5. They went 1-6 because they're the Phillies, and they suck, and they're losers, and they've been bad for 10 years, and they will continue to be bad for years in the future. Then the 2020 Eagles. Complete disaster of the season. Seemed like any progress that the organization may have made into becoming like a perennial championship contender completely fell by the wayside. Carson Wentz forgot how to play football, essentially. He lost all confidence. Doug Peterson completely seemed to be on autopilot most of the time. Either that, or he would go for stupid 2-point conversion after every time the Eagles would score a touchdown. And the whole season was terrible. It was a terrible experience. The only bright spot was, hey, maybe Jalen Hurts is something. And we'll see 2021 in a few months how much of a something he really is. Then 2021 Sixers. And they completely choked in the second round of the Hawks. And we've been through that. 2021 Flyers. Lots of expectations for that team. Some people saying that they're going to be first place in the East. They're a cup contender. They have got everything figured out. They got sustained success. Flyers realized, oh, wait, it's an odd number year. Let's not make the playoffs. Let's regress in pretty much all areas. Carter Hart, the guy that people were comparing to Carey Price, looked more like whatever, he was bad, all right? But he still has promise in the future, hopefully. And hopefully Cam York is actually good and to make up for the fact that we didn't take Cole Caulfield. And then the 2021 Phillies, who literally just blew another lead today to the Mets. They're just the definition of mediocrity. They're a completely uninspired, frustrating team with no life to it, despite how much some of their biggest players are getting paid. And I've pretty much come to the realization at this point that the Phillies are going to be bad forever. Like, by a divine intervention, they're going to be good again, because it seems like whatever they do, they can't do anything. No matter what path they take, it leads to failure. And it seems, so that's a summarization of what Philadelphia sports has been like since the Eagles won the Super Bowl. I remember some TTV Sports or whatever it's called making a video how Philadelphia is the next great sports city in America. Nah. Just nah. And here's the thing. To demand like a championship every year is not realistic. But it seems like this isn't Boston. This isn't like New York and this isn't LA. You know, this isn't like a market where teams usually perform. But just to go through all this different stuff in the last like 3 years, it's been insane. The amount of heartbreak and anger that this city has felt. It seems like all four of these teams are in cahoots with each other. Say, you know what? Let's just let's do as much as we can to piss off Philadelphia. That's really what it seems like. It seems like all these teams are like, fuck Philadelphia, fuck their fans. Let's break their hearts. It seems because it seems truly impossible that all four of these teams can be this pathetic, this frustrating, this underachieving, and choke this much in these last 3 or 4 years. It's been really tough. And if you were to ask me, well, which team's going to win a championship next? I don't know. Because it seems like none of these teams are even close right now. Or you can say the Sixers, all they got to do is get rid of Ben Simmons, and they'll be championship contenders again. Even though they should have been championship contenders for the last 4 years, but they choked all 4 years. Doc Rivers is still their coach, so I don't see that happening. Flyers, if Carter Hart rebounds, if Cam York comes up and like changes the defense, if Claude Giroux, Jake Voracek turn back the clock and be their superstar form that they were 5 years ago, yeah, they can win a championship, I guess. Phillies, they're not winning anytime soon. Eagles, they're not winning anytime soon. So it's been extremely tough right now. It's been extremely tough for the last 4 years. And I wanted to make this video in order to get that off my chest, because the amount of grief, heartbreak, and frustration that Philadelphia sports fans have had to deal with throughout all time, but specifically the last 4 years ever since the Eagles won the Super Bowl, seems absolutely extreme. And I wanted to get that off my chest.